Welcome to Show Studio. Head to head again, Spring Summer 19 men's, and today we're discussing Milan. So I have a rather reluctant Calum Knight back with us for the third season, and if I say reluctant, it's not because of Head to Head or Show Studio, obviously, but because he's not very keen on Milan.
No.
Is he?
No. It's a different beast, I think, Milan. And also, I've never been, so I don't have that relationship with it. I've never seen any of the brands that show there. I don't have any interaction with it, really.
And I keep asking you back to do Milan. But anyway, welcome and thank you for being here, and hello. Okay, discussing Milan actually is not the one week that we have the most to say about. First of all, it's very short. I mean, Milan is a long weekend, it's not even a week. Not because people are not really showing anymore, apart from probably from Gucci, who now does co-head during women's, and anybody else? No, I think only Gucci started.
Yes, Gucci. They're showing in Paris.
Deserting. Yeah, but that's a one-off apparently, yes, apparently. But even before arriving in Milan, you were in Florence. Yes, you were in Florence to follow our great friend Craig Green, and to see his first show ever outside of London. And if anybody remember, we pulled a very big one by live streaming it ourselves.
Off our phones.
So you were sending us photos and Giorgio was sending us the film. Was quite amazing. So I remember loving it, but I also remember that you had something to say about that.
It wasn't my favourite Craig show.
As far as collection or the whole thing?
So the collection I actually do like. I would say there's probably about four main stories in this collection. A lot of them are very sellable, and I would actually like to wear a lot of them.
Good.
However, as a show, a cohesive show with the set, with the momentum that you have building up to, him showing outside of London, it didn't fulfill necessarily what it wasn't it wasn't my favourite show of his, the collection or the set or the or not the drama, but the feeling around it.
I see what you mean. The set was very different than what he usually does here, but I was lucky enough to be able to interview him before, and he explained to me that he didn't want to go to Florence, by the way, such an historical and beautiful and romantic city, and show in a rough, rundown station or in the typical loft that he would have chosen in London. And so he tried to find that, and then one day he said, hang on a minute, I'm in London, in Florence. And so he chose I Giardini di Boboli, which is probably one of the...
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's so one of the most known park, private by the way. I think people can visit it, but it's still, I guess,
you have to pay
private.
€8,
because it's not, and it's a Giardini of this incredible historical palazzo in front. I mean, it's a monument. It's an outdoor historical place, and he didn't really hide it by building things that were not showing off the beauty of it. But he built. Can you describe? Because I only saw it on the film, on the video. So can you describe us a little bit?
So we actually went there a day before to test the live stream. We got access to go in, so they were building it. And we went in the day, and we also went in at night. And it is a beautiful garden. Everything there, every plant has been planted by a different king, so everything. It's like an outdoor museum of plants.
Beautiful.
It's incredible. So there was a lot of excitement, and they were erecting these huge bits of fabric to black out different parts of the sky and the skyline. And they had all these big scaffolding that you can see there. And when they were building it, I was really excited. They're saying it's going to show you different parts of the trees and different parts of the foliage that you won't see. And I don't know if I was in an odd position with the actual show. I was actually second row as well, and maybe I just had an odd... But actually what I was seeing was just the corner of a tree. It didn't the idea was that it was going to sculpt a new skyline and show you bits that you didn't recognise and put huge black blocks in your eyeline, and it didn't necessarily do that in the way that... Maybe I had too much information before. In the way that he had
described, we had a lot of information.
We had a lot of information, so I think actually
you have
that
sort of expectation.
Curiosity killed the cat in that way. But it was beautiful, and Craig, I have such high expectations for Craig, and the clothes are beautiful. However, what I felt possibly could have been missing in the show was, with all these changes, doing something internationally, and also, changing, not being in your own home, and having to fly out a week early and finish the fittings there and all of that. I feel like a lot of Craig's emotional attention that normally is the highlight of his show, is the emotional undercurrent that links everything together. For like that emotion might have been spent on just making the show happen, so it was maybe slightly not in the clothes as much.
That's a very interesting
season.
thing you're just saying. I didn't think about that, but it makes sense.
I just felt there was that everything was.
So the pressure went somewhere else.
Yeah, or that emotion, that kind of fragileness that you get with the Craig show was slightly missing, and it felt that it might have been spent in the stress and in the mayhem of showing somewhere else.
But actually, I talked to him 48 hours before, and he was very serene, and he was in a very good mood. He was laughing a lot, and he was telling me, "Oh, I'm not telling you anything about, apart from some inspiration, but not telling you much about the collection because I'm still changing everything." So there was the usual Craig not knowing exactly what he's going to show until the last minute.
But I mean, if you do work in that process, which lots of designers do, you need to be fully focused on that to make sure it's the best. If you do, in the same way that Nick shoots, he doesn't plan his shoots, but he has to be completely in the moment and there with it, and that's why he, all the sets, everything's planned meticulously beforehand so you can go in and create. So if you're stressed about moving to another city to finalise your show, your head's somewhere else and you're not fully in that moment. And that's what we need from designers, to be really creative and be able to be that spontaneous.
Yeah, I honestly didn't see that, but I hear your point, it could be. I do think that there are some amazing
There's some beautiful pieces.
Looks here, and what I like, one of the things that I absolutely love about Craig is that he's really pushing the boundaries forward of fashion, and especially men's fashion. Things that Hedy did 15 years ago, Craig did. He does them now, and he's pushing and pushing, and yet it's wearable, it's buyable, it's and
it speaks to so many people outside of fashion.
And it does. And also, I know exactly what we're going to see on the school's catwalk for menswear next season. I mean, you see Craig in every graduate collection because it's so important.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important, and don't get me wrong, there are so many pieces that I love from this collection, and by no means was it a bad collection. I just think that
you were missing some emotion, some focus.
Maybe, I mean, it's so hard to say. I wasn't there with him every day, so I can't say what it was, but it just felt that there was a slight disconnect, which I think might have been taking someone out of their comfort zone, and also not, it is stressful, traveling is stressful, so imagine pulling that all around.
I absolutely love the colors. I love the fact that it was very different than what he's done before, but I could see signatures here and there, and I don't know, for me, it's one of my favorite collection of Craig Green, actually, but first of all, I'm a woman, so I see it differently, but I thought it was extraordinary.
The collection's grown on me a lot since I first saw it, and it's one that I want to and am still giving the time of day, because I want to go back and I want to learn about it. It's not that I've
try it on and see it.
And I actually didn't get to go to the show, and I really wanted to, because stuff like that. Look, there was the Nike Flyknit collaboration, which is an incredible, source of technology and innovation in what they're doing. So it's not that I've written off this collection, and the more I look at that, you learn more every time you look. It's like listening to an album, Yeah,
and also, as you said, that these clothes are to be seen and experienced and touched.
Yeah, and they're also to be worn.
Yeah, but also to experience exactly what they are, technicalities, and But and then people took a train and went to Milan for the now famous long weekend, where once again, thank God for Miuccia, who is still giving, probably the most important show of the season. And then there's the usual big ones, Versace, who I thought this year was a little bit safe, but we can go more into that. Fendi, that was very much praised, and we discussed that. And then again, the new designers, Sunnei, probably the most important one, the best one. I thought number 21 was a little bit disappointing. What do you have to say in general? And then we can go into detail.
I thought Prada was not what I was expecting. I'm excited to see when it comes into the stores, but actually I was quite underwhelmed and thought it was a weird decision of Miuccia to not continue on the level that she was going with her autumn-winter 18 menswear. I understand that everyone says that's what Miuccia does. She doesn't give you what you want. And
then when everybody does it, she shows what she can do.
I understand that, but for a brand that's actually having a lot of problems and engaging millennials, engaging a new customer, to give them a little bit and then actually go completely so far off to a point that I feel alienated, and I follow fashion hugely. There's not many people in the world that actually follow fashion the way that us in fashion do. So if you alienate a customer that quickly, if you get them in, and then the next season you throw them out,
you think that collection threw them out?
Yeah, no. The people who are buying the nylon stuff, the shirts, the two-tone shirts from Autumn Winter 18 that have sold out immediately. Like I got one of the small little bags. People in that store just wanting them, finding them. They're selling out immediately. I was calling Prada, asking for them. It's created a real buzz.
Yeah, but don't forget that, as you said, we live in this little bubble, which is the expertise and the fact that, we know what's the last thing, so we want. But Prada is not Craig Green. Prada is not Charles Jeffrey. Prada, especially for the Italian culture that I know, it's one of the establishment, and it's the alternative to Armani, which I don't want to say bad words, but it's obviously much more forward than everything. So it's being fashionable without going too far, and maybe.
Do you think this was too far? This autumn winter
for
collection?
The normal Milanese, northern bourgeois Italian, it's way too far.
But the runway only has a small amount of retail space in any of their stores anyway.
Very little.
Very little. Yeah, very little. So it's not like whatever we see any season will actually really infiltrate their bespoke suits, their nylon backpacks, and their ties. So it's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Miuccia said after the show, not the one we're watching now, but the Spring Summer 19. She said, "I wanted to go back to simple because I think everybody has gone too far." And she said, I realized while I was doing this collection that doing simple is 10 times more difficult than doing complicated and complex.
But I thought this was way more complex and overcomplicated than the last season.
In which ways?
Just all of it, the aesthetic of it felt more jumbled together, which I actually liked the jumbled togetherness of it, of like wearing those knitted Prada jumpers with the matching shoes in a different colour. It felt way more overcomplicated. I mean, visually, the prints and all of that.
Yeah, but the sleek lines, I mean, it's quite simple, no? No?
I think the nylon collection is. I really think that collection, apart from, was all black, all padded, all sleek, wiped down fabrics, then with the pop of colour of the classic prints. But I understand that this has a market itself. However, you hosted a panel, I think, 2 seasons ago, saying, what is Prada going to do?
Yeah.
It can't, no one's buying it.
I don't think it's me saying no one's buying it, because it's still a big brand, but it's not growing.
It's not growing.
I mean, it has lost a little bit of market to Gucci, especially.
Yeah.
And it's a pity, because I don't think it's the fault of Miuccia's skills as a designer. For me, she still remains one of the Mozarts of fashion. But the fact that they didn't connect with the millennials, I think there was a little bit of arrogance there, saying, "Oh, we're superiors to that." Well, tough luck, no. You're not. Nobody is.
But that's what it felt like with Autumn Winter 18. It was actually really embracing so many of the styles that they influenced and that people, my friends in fashion, not in fashion, want to wear. They embraced that. I thought it was very clever and done very well. So then I was like, okay, maybe don't go full nylon again, but like have those elements. And this is completely ostracizing the clients that they will have attracted, or most of the clients they will have attracted with their last season, which seems a little bit like, oh, we'll cater to you one season, but F off, because actually I'm going to go do this. It felt a little odd to me as someone who's always loved Prada, but actually likes that nylon stuff and that's why I want to wear it. I've never bought Prada till last season.
Well, it's funny because here we see that I'm the generation of your parents, I said it, because I grew up with that nylon. Yeah. And so I'm really not really interested. Yeah. See, and I'm probably wrong, but I still have...
No, it's an opinion.
I think somewhere I could find a nylon backpack that probably I worked 1,000 weekends when I was 25 to be able to buy. I wouldn't take it out. Maybe if I find it, I can give it to you. For me, it sounds and feels and look commercial. The nylon.
Last season, the nylon one, yeah.
But it's. I think Miuccia, from her status of a great fashion designer and fashion-forward person and inspiration for so many people. Yeah. She's the past Craig Green. I mean, everybody's been copying Prada forever, and they still do a little bit. Her prints, her colors, her styling, the research of ugly that becomes beautiful, that she
Yeah.
does better than
No,
anybody else. So for me, she can afford to
Yeah.
give someone the nylon and then say, but now that's what you want. Because if you're a Prada aficionado, then you probably will follow her, no?
Yeah, I think definitely there's always going to be the people that follow her, and it's a large group of people. But when I thought the autumn winter 18 was very cleverly done and not too pandering to young people, but had that essence that you could buy into. Whereas this doesn't so much. I feel like this does ostracize a lot of those customers that might have been interested. But hearing her talk about the collection and why doing the short shorts, and all of that, I thought it was interesting. It's a intellectual.
Why did she do? Did she say? I remember she did.
She was saying why can women wear mini skirts?
Why not?
And men,
yeah,
why
and
not?
Fendi did also the shorts.
I mean, you see them around a lot, but these are really short.
Yeah, these are really short, and I think it's quite refreshing to see men's like. She was right about that.
No, and it's an intellectual collection that has lots of people talking, and that aesthetically I don't mind, but coming from, I mean, I feel that I'm more of a consumer than a critic actually, in the way that I think of myself.
You're a pretty good critic too.
I love fashion. I love it. I want to buy it. I want to be around it. It felt that overall this collection would make people feel outside again, whereas the other collection really brought people in, which I thought was quite beautiful.
It would be interesting to see if, and when they publish results. And it would be also interesting to see if it actually goes into the stores.
Yeah.
Because for me, one of the biggest frustrations as a woman, also and a customer of Prada, is that you lost after the collections and then they're not produced or very little. So let's move on to Fendi, because Fendi had very good press, probably best press in a long time, especially for Fendi men. I was completely underwhelmed. What am I missing here?
Well, I mean, the reason it has such good press...
And also think Milan, don't compare to Paris and London, think Milan.
Fendi is having a really big resurgence in, again, the demographic that Prada tapped into last season. People, that double F logo is really coming back. It's being sold on Depop, Vestia, all of that. So they're really, they're taking their moment and they're embracing it. They're spending a lot on advertising. They're doing a lot of collaborations with different stores. The F is for Fendi logo is coming back. They're doing £1 million parties all around the world. So, I mean...
So they're pushing hard?
They're pushing hard. They're having their moment in the spotlight.
But Fendi has had probably 6-7 very good years behind. I mean, Fendi has grown much more than it was expected. Fabio Beccari, did a good job with Carl. I don't know. I think what they're trying to do to become cool. Cooler?
I think they're trying to become cooler. I mean, there's that iconic image of Kylie Jenner and wearing full Fendi with a Fendi pram for her new baby.
Yeah.
That literally, I saw that photo a week later, just in time everyone got their deliveries from Vestia. Everyone was wearing full Fendi, and then a week later, or a month later, I was invited to a huge Fendi party in London. So it seems obviously it's not just that photo, but that happened, and then they ran with it, and they are still running with it. So much to try and keep people interested. They're doing collaborations with matches. They've got street dancers dressed down the whole thing who come dance. It's.
I know, and they're playing with the logo, but I'm sorry, Alessandro Michele did it before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think, and then we'll talk about the collection. But I think that sometimes it feels like it's a bit trying hard.
Yeah, I mean it is. It is trying hard. I mean, it's a sleek...
The anagram, I mean, this is Nicola Vascellari, is a Roman artist, who, by the way, is the partner of Delfina Beretres, the daughter of Silvia Fendi. Silvia Fendi, I think, yes. He played with the logo, he did the anagram. He's done that before, he's a graffiti artist, I think.
So that's his...
Roma becomes Amor, and Fendi becomes Fiend, like friend without an R. Yeah, I mean,
and that's already it's already been rolled out into all the stores, hasn't it? Or it's going to be rolled out into all the stores?
It's probably going to be when the season comes in. It
would
be too early, no?
I thought I saw it somewhere, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was somewhere.
Also, no, maybe you're right. Maybe it's been rolled out in the stores already, but it should be linked to this collection also, because some of the prints were repeating that. Yeah. So, and again, the shorts, so men legs in Italy seem to be a trend.
It's so hot in Florence. I need those shorts in Florence. It was boiling.
Yeah, but that's Rome. It's even more boiling. That's Milan. But I mean, the men's shorts are becoming something after the men's skirt, right?
Yeah. But is that a men's skirt there?
That's a skirt, I think. But I think in Milan we've seen more short, but even here we've seen more short shorts than skirts.
Yeah, 100%.
Than men's skirts.
I think it's a utility thing as well, isn't it? Is that actually, it's that kind of, there's a look going around at the moment. I mean, it's been going on for a while. I remember 2 menswear seasons ago, like Dior, Chris Van Ash was doing all the men's shorts, but they were doing it all out of tailoring, so it was a different moment compared to this, which is all sportswear shorts, which seem more active, whereas before it was kind of like you'd slashed your suit trousers up. So it's saying different things, but they've been around for a while. I mean,
I don't dislike it. Then it depends who wears it. But
no one can
That's
really.
the problem.
They're really, unless you're a model, they're hard to pull off. But power to you if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
But the styling of this, the clothes are accessible. They're elevated enough for them not to feel like you can't just get them at a charity shop.
Good accessories here. I think Fendi has done it very well, even with women recently, and you know, all the little gimmicks and around the accessories and the tassels and they've done really well with that. And I think that's where the money comes from. Yeah,
I'm not surprised they're doing well. Like, that suit's really nice. Like, it's nice, it's cool, but it's just it being, I guess, a bit the belly of the beast where we are, and we see, brands suddenly jumping at all these opportunities because X has worn that, or because they've got a good review from whoever, and then suddenly you see them run with it. It does get to feel a little, fake. But the clothes are
but when you can afford to have a return of the logo so massive like this one, it means that somehow you're doing well, as you were saying. When your stuff is sold on resale website, a la Real and Vestiaire, it's a very good sign. Those sites publish as the fastest selling or the best selling brands, that's a sign of the hotness of the brand.
Exactly.
So, let's move on to another big Milanese, and it's Versace. I must say I've had in the past few years a little soft spot for Donatella. I think she's come back in a fantastic way. I think she's showing us that she's not only still standing, but she's probably one also of the motors of Italian fashion and fashion in general. She had discovered amazing talent. She has had the courage to admit when she wanted to go and say, no, actually I'm back, and launching people a la J.W. Anderson and Vaccarello, like it or not. I mean, they're very successful today.
And Halpern.
And Halpern, exactly. And I like to her men's shows because it's subjective, so who cares, but it's not my style, but I love it because, especially in Milan, she pushes it, she provokes, she does things that are a little bit like, whoa, and she didn't this season. So also Donatella is tamed down and more simple and less loud.
Don't you think that there was such a big attention on menswear this season that if you weren't going to go all out, you should just be quiet and let everyone else get on with it? That's what I felt.
But isn't it because men is growing so much that they need to sell?
Yeah, I think it's commercial, so there's a lot of people are trying to buy a lot of menswear, and they have been for a few years, but bigger houses are cottoning on to how important menswear is. And also with the changes in leadership of men's houses, I think also if you weren't going to do something that was your best work, you didn't do much because you didn't want to be fighting that noise.
Fendi, Versace and Prada, I think. But, it's a bit difficult because it is true that men has been the motor of fashion in the past years, and it's not only about the fact that the figures are growing, but men are starting to discover fashion. And again, don't think about you. Think about men, they're like, oh, I just dress because I have, and the fact that they don't have to wear suits and ties anymore. So fashion has become something for men, finally, and I'm very happy to see that. But then it means that the run among the big one is bigger because they have to grow, they have to succeed. And so they still have to suggest things that are making it appealing, but they also still have to sell. And also I think that the street / sportswear had gone a little bit too far. I have such a fatigue for that, that now everybody's like in this limbo in between. I think Paris, and we will talk, you and I, very soon about that, has done it better. Milan, it's like purgatory to me, a little bit in between the end of that and the beginning of something else.
Yeah, and I think that was felt for actually all the menswear shows, is that the stuff that did actually feature sportswear more heavily, and just sportswear not kind of reiterated or changed,
Marni.
did feel a bit
But
old
Marni
and a
did
bit-
it well.
Marni did do it.
I think the best was Marni for that.
Yeah,
It
Marni
was almost a
gorgeous.
tongue-in-cheek, making
It was
fun
fun.
of it.
Marni
It was really
really
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Marni was the one show I kind of looked at. I was like, that looks really interesting and really exciting. Like, you know, these plays on sportswear, you know, it's a bit.
It's literal.
It's literal, but
It's
also
literal but fun. Yeah.
it's taking sportswear and adding these volumes, adding all this stuff, which is, you know, in Paris we'll talk about Y Project and what John did and all of that. It's taking sportswear because actually sportswear shapes are the simplest shapes usually to make. There's straight trousers
there's
with
not much
elastic.
tailoring in
There's
there,
not much tailoring. So taking a simple block of a tracksuit bottom or a hoodie, and then adding those volumes, adding those layers, and actually making it seem something
making it fashion.
Yeah, and actually
not just styling.
aspirational.
What I think, what's his name? Help.
I don't know. Is that bad?
Anyway, I know, sorry, but it just doesn't come to me right now. But what I think it did really well was exactly that. It was taking a trend that had gone a little bit too far in being more styling than fashion and making it into fashion and showing, well, actually it can be fashion.
Yeah,
and redesign it around in a way. And also, you know, fabrics and materials and colors and the styling. I think that was a really good show and very, very right for Marni.
Yeah, and it felt, you know, there was a genuine buzz around what was going on. And also seeing that, you know, that image there, those florals on that model in particular, it was really gorgeous and it felt like a really exciting moment. Again, I mean, I actually wish they'd cast, it's really hard talking about casting, say, normal people, but there were more range of shapes, sizes and people in the show. I wish it had gone further. But those are the people who buy the clothes. There's not just one person.
And I have to apologize to Francesco Risso, suddenly came back to me, sorry. I know exactly who you are, and you did a very good job with this show. So yeah, I must say we forgot when we were discussing this before, I forgot to mention Marni, but that was one moment that excited me a little bit more. And then the new one, Sunnei. Sunnei didn't disappoint. For the first time, they added women. Yeah. And I must say, he was pretty good.
Are you going to be after the women's wear?
It's a bit young for me. Me as a person, you think? Or me
as a consumer?
Not sure, and I don't know, I might, but I didn't see it in that way, you know, and also when I saw the Valentino Couture show yesterday, that's what I want to be rich for. But anyway, jokes apart. No, but it was the first time that they came out with women, and I think, first of all, their women and men are very consistent, and they look good together. And what I like here is that I see that they're Italian, and I'm saying it in a way that it's been very French and very British, the, you know, new, young, trendy, fashionable fashion, and they do it in an Italian way. I don't know exactly how to explain that, but I feel the alternative. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I haven't been to Milan Fashion Week, and I'm not as well acquainted with the Italian brand, so I'm not automatically picking up on an Italian air around it. But it's very obviously not any of the other fashion. It's not Paris at all, and it's not London at all.
Exactly.
So it only can be Milan,
so they have a niche,
not
you know,
but,
and they have a niche, and they have a, and it's different than any other brand in Milan.
Yeah, completely.
There's few inspiration that are inevitable, but they're not really copying anybody. There's something authentic here. There's work to do, but there's something authentic here that I think can make these kids go far. And apparently they already have quite a huge turnover, and they're doing quite well internationally. Yeah, which is good. And
well, also those shapes sell online very easily. Not to dismiss them, those shapes, but those shapes you can kind of imagine how they look on you. So they actually sell online a lot easier than full-on tailoring.
Because it's quite normal, yet relevant.
Yeah, it's relevant.
And yet interesting.
Yeah, you know, you can't, lots of, you know, for example, what Charles shows is amazing, but a lot of it is really hard to buy online.
Charles Jeffrey?
Charles Jeffrey, sorry, in London, just out of my head. You know, it's really hard to buy online. Same with Com. It's really, you need to go on and try Com. Whereas this, you can imagine.
Rick Owen also, apart from some blazer that he cuts blazer like nobody else, but this is not. Also, we cannot yet compare.
Oh no, I wasn't trying to compare.
What these kids do, but it's very Instagrammable and it's very sellable online, which is.
It's for the person in the know. I feel it's a bit
But it's modern. I mean, there's a little suit there for one for a boy and one for a girl. It's a modern take on a suit, and it looks good.
Yeah, it looks really.
It's not reinventing the wheel, we say in English.
No, but it's reinterpreting it.
but it's reinterpreting it in a fresh,
for young
modern way.
Milanese people, which
So
you don't see a lot.
you already feel very relieved that we've gone through Milan
Is that it?
without falling. Well, we have a few minutes, so I would like to challenge you and give me a little closure about Milan Fashion Week. What would bring you to Milan? What would you like to see that then makes you think, oh, that's something I want to participate?
I mean, I want to go. I've been asking to go, and I would really love to go, because I feel a disconnect, one, because I haven't been, and just because I don't necessarily like some. It's very hard not being at the shows, or being at the shows or not being at the shows, you see two completely different things.
Absolutely.
We'll discuss it, especially with Paris. But what would make me want to go to Milan?
Well, I can tell you I've done Fashion Week in
Yeah.
Milan for many, many years. It was never the one that excited me the most, apart from Prada, that I really love.
I think Milan would benefit from a co-ed fashion week the most out of any of them, actually.
So literally to put everybody
To put men
together.
and women together and have a more consistent vision, because that's one of the things I do feel that there's the least consistency between men's and women's in Milan.
Because of the Zegnas and
Because
the
of the
Canalis
Zegnas,
and
yeah,
the Brionis and
you know,
because of the classic and
Prada
the Armanis.
has its seasonal, you know, message that doesn't go out together but is together. Versace sometimes does, sometimes doesn't, and Gucci.
I must say we didn't mention Zegna, but it was a good show, and Zegna for me won the Oscar of the venue.
Yeah,
it was extraordinary.
Apparently it was a bit upskirt though, because it was boiling hot. Because it's really mirrored floors, so you can sit with your legs crossed.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, which obviously they hadn't considered.
I think it was a good collection for Zegna. It was very couture-ish, so I mean, they show what they can do.
There was a flounce to it that I thought was quite attractive and felt quite new, especially for him.
There were some interesting colors that we haven't seen before at Zegna. I mean, you know, pistachio green and that kind of thing. It was a little bit a no-no at Zegna before, or I've never seen it.
No, I haven't seen it.
You know, some prints. I mean, it was an interesting collection without going too far from the classic, because Zegna.
Yeah, he's got his market.
And it's huge, and so they can't really, you know.
But if you keep doing this, if you keep doing these little interpretations and updates every season,
I think
you can enter a
job.
new market slowly, without, you know, kind of saying goodbye to your old one. If you do these slow updates and over time, instead of just trying to do it, you know, if Fendi does it, you get one good bit of good press that you run with it. If you slowly update, you can slowly introduce your clothes and your ideas to a new market.
It's a few billion brand. I mean, it's very big, and one of the things that they do is also a lot of bespoke and made to measure, and they have, you know, there are still many classic men out there that are over 50 and with a little bit of belly that maybe they need to wear normal clothes.
Yeah.
Normal clothes doesn't mean anything, like suits, classic clothes. But here, he gave some alternatives, also in the classic, where we saw just before a suit that I thought was rather classic and yet very appealing. And I think that's what Zegna should be, that one in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like, and you know, on a good-looking model of a different ethnicity, that's a good direction for Zegna, you know, with a good casting, with an extraordinary location. I think he did a very good job.
The suit and sandals and big clutch.
Or the sneakers, you know, So, as usual, you know, among the big classic ones, they're the leaders. They're bigger, they can afford great designers, and they push forward.
And give them the resources to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much, and
Thank
I'll
you
see
for
you very
having me.
soon for Paris.